Good morning, everyone. The reading this morning is from Matthew 14, verses 13 to 21. Now when Jesus heard this, he withdrew from there in a boat to a deserted place by himself. But when the crowds heard it, they followed him on foot from the towns. When he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion for them and cured their sick. When it was evening, the disciples came to him and said, "This is the deserted place, and the hour is now late. Send the crowds away so that they may go into the villages and buy food for themselves." Jesus said to them, "They need not go away. You give them something to eat." They replied, "We have nothing here but the 5 loaves and 2 fish." And he said, "Bring them here to me." Then he ordered the crowds to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and blessed and broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples. And the disciples gave them to the crowds. And all ate and were filled, and they took up what was left over of the broken pieces, 12 baskets full, and those who ate were about 5,000 men, besides women and children. And from chapter 25, verse 35, "For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink?" Your word, O Lord, is the lamp to our feet.
Thank you, Brian. So with Graham away this week, he's asked Wendy and Sandra to share where they see God working through the activities that they lead as part of Corrimal Uniting. So we'll hear first from Wendy about the op shop, and then Sandra from Men's Meet.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, I'm Wendy Howe, if you don't know who I am, and I'm here as chairperson of the op shop, the Corrimal Uniting Church op shop. First, a couple of questions. Hands up if you know where the op shop is. Yay! Hands up if you've been a volunteer. If you're still volunteering, put your hand up. Okay, 15 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to answer yes to any of those questions. My hands would have been down. I didn't know where the op shop was, and I didn't know anyone, and I hadn't volunteered. But today, I'm standing here as chairperson. Bit ridiculous, isn't it? Still. And I've been asked to speak to you about where I see God at work in our church op shop. So where do I see God at work in the op shop? The answer is everywhere, and pretty much every day. It's just about all that we do. One of our customers stated recently, "It's more than just a shop." And she was correct. We do more than just sell goods. Let me explain the background to why this is so. The shop was revitalised about 12 years ago. It had been going since probably about 1985. And 12 years ago, a grant was applied from Uniting Church in Sydney, and to get the grant we had to show how we would provide for poverty and need in our local area. So we defined poverty as not only a lack of money, but a lack of social contact to family, to friends, as well as lack of emotional and spiritual connection. We got the grant. The shop was updated, reopened for business, and it's still there today, doing very well. We do sell goods, but we do a lot more, mindful of how we had defined need in our grant application. Today, our customers tell us that they appreciate that they can have a conversation with people who will listen, Conversations may range from politics, current events, the weather, to questions of a biblical or faith-related matter. Customers like that they can be heard, they can share their troubles and joys, and we listen and understand. And they also love the fact that the shop keeps prices low, and it's the friendliest op shop. The words of Matthew, verses 35 to 37, do apply to the work and the way the work is done in the op shop. And I guess it's doing what God calls us to do through the people who work there and those who visit. These op shop people are many and varied. There are volunteers. There's about 40 all up, people of faith or people with no defined faith who just have a need or desire to help others, to give their time and their energy to help out those in need and to help the shop fulfil its guiding principle, providing for need and poverty in the local area. The op shop people are our customers, and they come from a very wide range of backgrounds and of faiths, and include a wide cross-section of Wollongong people, old and young, rich and poor, but all supporting a good cause. Our people are also those who donate the goods. So the shop has items to sell, an essential liaison, as well as those who regularly fill our car boots because they know we're involved in the op shop and they support the worthy cause. I can't go to Newcastle without coming back with a bootload from my brother and sister-in-law and anyone else who's around. Right, our people include our church staff, ready to help with advice and encouragement, greatly appreciated. Our property committee and our men's shed, who help us when we have problems. If you've never visited our op shop, drop in and see why so many people call it the friendliest op shop around. The op shop aims to provide for poverty and need in our local community. We are part of the church. We report regularly to church council. We're also sort of the shop front of our church in the community, which is a bit of a responsibility. Often, we are the first person a customer has spoken to that day, and that's something that we're very mindful of. So, how does what we're doing in the op shop relate to the values of Corrimal Uniting Church? Looking at our values, we can really see how the shop fits in. The first value of inclusion, well, that goes without saying. It's what we really do. You don't have to be a church member to volunteer. All customers are valued. They become part of the wider op shop community. Some have been coming in for years. They greet us as old friends, and that's really nice. Our volunteer base has moved from mainly church members to mainly community-based people. Our connection with Services New South Wales and Australia has seen another layer added to our volunteer base. In all, op shop volunteers come from diverse backgrounds but have a single aim, which is to help. Right, the value of gratitude comes up with our church. We are so grateful that our shop is able to continue to stay open and help others, that non-church volunteers want to be part of the shop, that people of other faiths share our values and want to be part of the shop. We're very grateful that we have now volunteers from the government system for people over 55 who receive full benefits by volunteering. We accept them willingly and gratefully. The next value is love. Love keeps us going for what we do and for our many customers. Some have been coming in for years. They've become friends, and we love what we're doing. Reconnecting to people from our past often happens there too. The next value is celebration. We celebrate the highs and lows. Customers often share their joys and sorrows. We listen and feel for them as they tell their stories. And that's just more than a shop, isn't it? Transformation is the next value. Seeing people grow as they find they receive by giving. By being accepted, they feel valued and their self-worth increases. The next value is justice. We do this in the shop for the earth. We divert goods from landfill by reusing them and moving them on to other charities. Justice for people, providing goods for people at low prices for people when they're in need, and sometimes just providing goods when there are real needy cases. So we try to help people who are in need also. Not physical need, but need of other things, by pointing them in the directions where help can be found. We use our networks to connect people with others in the church and beyond. This is part of work in the op shop. It's part of every day. It just happens, and we do know why. It's like Jesus working in our midst. Instances that stand out for me, the weirdest request I ever got at the op shop was, "Do you have a mouthpiece for a soprano saxophone?" It was a bit weird, and I thought, okay. So my answer was this: no, but I can connect you with my brother, who's a saxophonist. It might just be that he'd be able to help. The result was one stunned and very grateful customer. Heartwarming moments at the shop. Watching new volunteers grow in confidence as they volunteer. We have one particular volunteer who came in and could barely lift her eyes and look at you in the eye. Now, she's joking and very relaxed and very much wanting to be on the till, helping at all moments. Another instance that stands out was we had a 100th birthday party at the shop not that long ago. And it was for a regular customer. Somebody in the shop, Janice, knew that this lady was having a 100th birthday and organised for her family to come along for a birthday cake, and we celebrated her birthday. Being able to connect customers to government services is another thing that really stands out for us, and also to other parts of the church. Seeing some of our op shop customers come to church is just wonderful. One who comes to church now, came into the op shop, had this great conversation about literature, etc., and suggested that he might like to come to this, that, and everything else, and he does. Another thing that stands out for me is one of our volunteers comes in with her mother. Dawnie would be at least 90, and she comes in on a regular basis with her daughter. She sits there, she regularly greets customers. "Hello, how are you?" Everyone is either petal or blossom. She can't see who she's talking to, but she greets them and the customers love her. So that's always something that brings a smile to customers' faces. In closing, the op shop is a place you go to buy something. That's what a shop does. But you often end up getting something beyond tangible goods. And that's where I see God working through people. We're able to assist people who are in need and to help them cope, to lighten their load. And our volunteers gain much from being able to be part of this process. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Better have a drink first. See my voice. Okay, some weeks ago, Graham asked both Wendy and I to speak. My talk is about ends meet. He asked me to be specific about how I see God at work and where I see God at work at ends meet. I've given this a lot of thought since then and have opened my eyes to see God's presence at our weekly community lunch. The following is what I see. For a start, we need to look back many years to when Alf Graham first had the vision that we, as a church, needed to be helping those who could do with a little help from a caring community to connect with. The Ensmeet community became a reality under Alf's leadership. This weekly commitment from Alf and his roster of volunteers, both from within the church community and from others who saw the need, caused those who came along to feel the love of Jesus as they were met with a warm smile and a safe place to relax. Some of those who came along in those early days still attend on a regular basis. Then COVID hit our shores, which meant all our activities in the church had to be put on hold until the crisis was over. This included Ensmeet Community Lunch, and for several years nothing more was done. Some of those who were working on Ensmeet at the time were no longer able to begin the program again due to age and health problems, and so it ceased to be. During this time, Graham joined us, and with his love for those who sometimes struggle with life, and this could be as simple as a need for company to alleviate their loneliness and isolation, Ensmeet Community Lunch came back to life. In the Bible story of the feeding of the 5,000, Jesus said, "They need not go away." The story of Jesus feeding the 5,000 appears in all 4 Gospels, and in each of them, human generosity and faith is part of the miracle. Jesus takes what's offered to satisfy the needs of the hungry and then multiplies it. Our offering of service to meet some of the needs within our own community comes about because faithful people desire to help out. Obviously, we can never perform miracles as Jesus did. However, there have been times when we have stretched a meal to provide for everyone when unexpected numbers came through our doors, and I don't doubt for 1 minute that the food going far enough for everyone was indeed a blessing from God. However, as I mentioned before, it's not all about food, although that helps. But Jesus said the words, "They need not go away," and these words are still relevant today. His command that the disciples give the people something to eat also applies to us offering a sense of connectedness to a community who really cares. In Matthew 25, Jesus said, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Here, Jesus links giving food and drink to the hungry and thirsty to ministering to himself. I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. Caring for vulnerable people is not only following Jesus' lead, it's akin to caring for Jesus. And along with food and drink, he gave equal importance to meeting others who needed inviting into their homes. That is, connecting with those who desire someone to talk to and someone to offer them comfort. Jesus did not diminish the need a hungry person has for a good meal. And when we read the Gospels, we can see that it has always been his intent that all people experience fullness of life. This includes bodily nourishment, but human need is often more than having a full belly. And this is exactly where I see God working at Ensmeet. Human generosity and faith in God is often the reason why many of our volunteers come and work, sometimes every week, others on a roster basis. For those who come along as community members, I feel that human generosity is also a huge factor in their giving time and energy to this program. and their assistance is invaluable. God has also provided us with a donor who has assisted us financially, enabling us to carry out this work, with generosity as a key point in our ministry to those who come along. This donor has helped us to achieve some of the goals of our mission statement about growing community and connection for everyone. When Jesus walked the earth, he experienced hunger and thirst. God, dwelling among us, felt the push and pull of human need just as we do. He also had a God's eye view on the experience of those around him and acted with compassion to meet those needs, spiritual and physical needs, wherever he went. We at Ensmeet endeavour to provide for those physical needs, and it is our constant aim to meet our guests with warm welcomes, joy, laughter, a listening ear, and compassion when it's needed. So as God's people and co-labourers with Christ, in a world where loneliness, isolation and the need for connection can be as important as getting a meal, how does Ensmeet satisfy these requirements for leading a happy and healthy life? When we give of ourselves personally, then our lives shine in sometimes very dark places. Places where this loneliness, isolation and never-ending daily struggle impacts the ability to carry on. There are several aspects of Ensmeet that bring many blessings to those who attend. Our musicians play rousing music that brings a real sense of joy into the room. Sometimes people dance. Sometimes they sing along, but always they are blessed by this ministry to them. God's people at work with the gifts they have been given. Never forgetting the fun Graham brings into this time with games and giveaways. All of our guests participate in these games and really enjoy the winning of items from the table, which has all kinds of goodies to be chosen from. For some of our guests, it might be the only gift they receive. From the baptism service, we find a statement of faith which really says why we do this and how we can see God's hand in the workings of our Ensmeet community. This statement is as follows. Our faith is in God, who leads from despair to hope, who brings fullness out of brokenness, and who creates new life from death. Our faith is in God, who lived, suffered and died as one of us, and by the Spirit is opening our hearts to a new way of living. Our faith is in God, who is merciful and compassionate, full of peace, drawing us to hope, patient, forgiving, steadfast and faithful. Our faith is in God, who chooses to co-mission with us, calling us to follow Jesus in the way of love, sending us forth into a new day. Some of our guests have mentioned that they come along to Ensmeet for a number of different reasons, not especially that they want a meal, but that they find a connection with others that they wouldn't have at home. This was very evident in the Win TV coverage of our Ensmeet. Many of those interviewed said similar things. That is, that the need for company and friendship is met when they attend our lunch. We have seen some wonderful connections between our guests, where they have sat side by side at lunch by chance, and now seek each other out each week, knowing that they have friends within the community, God at work. I want to tell you a story of one of our guests. I won't give you her name, but this person came along very timidly. She did not see any value in herself. She was lonely, isolated, and her hope for the future was very grim. She reminded Graham often over the weeks how much she appreciated the lunches, nice friendly people, good food and a warm atmosphere. She sat with some of the more senior ladies who come along because she felt comfortable with them. And over time, she has gained confidence in herself. She has done courses and work experience and now has a job. God at work. Oh, very much so. It wasn't by chance that she met the lovely ladies who helped her gain trust and confidence and were invaluable in helping this lady to achieve a better, happier and more fulfilled life. So back to the statement of faith. In so many ways, God has co-missioned with us as we follow Jesus in the way of love as each new Wednesday comes around. He has drawn us into being merciful and compassionate, patient and forgiving, steadfast and faithful. And of course we fail sometimes. There are times when one of those sterling attitudes might well be forgotten, but not often. And we know God is forgiving, and so move on from our failure to another new day. By the Spirit, God is opening our hearts to a new way of living, showing us we can help lead people from despair into hope and bring fullness out of brokenness. I haven't mentioned who our volunteers are because there are many, but all I want to add about this is just how blessed we are as a church family to have these people who come in regularly to be the hands and feet for Jesus, who work with joyful hearts despite just how much energy they need to keep going. To sum up, I'm sure by now you will be aware that our Ensmet Community Lunch is a safe place for our guests to come along to. Here they are catered for in so many different ways, not just food and drink given with a smile, but sometimes hugs, always a listening ear, fun and laughter. But let us not forget just how valued each one of our guests are. Every one of them brings something special and different to our day and gives us a sense of value as we care for them. How do we do this from week to week? Because we have felt God calling us into this vital ministry to welcome those into our midst who are looking for something extra in their lives. Yes, God is indeed at work at our Ensmet Community Lunch.